Good morning, everyone. Yes, welcome to a stunning new year with our discussion this year with people of color. I am Rabia Elise, yes, and I am really excited to start this year fresh with our people of color season and with our generation season with regards to people of color. We have had the opportunity last year to really allow ourselves to really understand where our season finds itself at and where our generation in season finds themselves at with the challenges that came our way. I believe that the last 3 years have educated us to really listen to what is it that is really requiring our attention during the season. It is that our generation had the opportunity to learn that this world looks like so many colors, like there is so many traditions going on, like there is so many requirements concerning humanity in general, like there's so many differences in the midst of all the colors and all the stunningnesses and all the appreciating factors in our season. But the requirement for us is to not be confused by that requirement to respond in our generation's challenge, but to really allow ourselves to listen to the currentness of our season. And when I say the currentness of our season, I really want to focus on our reaction when we listen to what is happening around us during this season. I really want us to understand and to really perceive that there is that receiving attitude, right? There is that opportunity for us to grasp what it is that is right for you and that is going to be protected for you in your season. And therefore, I want us to focus today on and leading this generation, and this is gonna be the what we are going to focus on during this year. And with saying that, I focus on how do we lead this year, how do we lead in the current year, not in preparation for next year or for the requirements for next year, but that opportunity to lead with the currentness of what is required for us to do. It is that our leaders, our parliamentary leaders, are really so much involved and so much required to respond to that. That is really more than a COVID-19 virus. That is really more than a war in a certain country. That is really more than a challenge that was abuse, or that was a woman abuse, or that was a kidnapping issue. But there is really that our generation of leaders would have to make a firm standpoint and really decide for themselves how it is that they are going to lead in our season with that is required. It is that when we look around us and we realize that our countries are this, our challenges in our countries are this, our opportunity to overcome that has been challenging for us is that reaction that we react upon when we are required to really allow ourselves to not be overwhelmed with that requirement to respond in all that is happening around us and in all that is required of mankind. But there is gonna be protective when we respond with how do we respond when we lead with regards to all that is required in our generation. It is that decision that leaders has to make, that they have to decide to get around the table with those people that really play and that really are an important part of the discussion in our season. It is that leaders have to learn to not say that I associate only with a group of parliamentary leaders, but now I'm required to listen also to the group of leaders that also allows themselves to own businesses in certain countries, and especially the main business owners in countries, because that is the most challenging aspect of our generation today. It is that businesses are in countries today, but businesses are owned by international countries. And for our generation to really allow ourselves to really overcome that challenge and to really not find ourselves a generation in war, but to learn that with all the colors, that with all the oath, that what we have overcome with the apartheid era, with all that our generation finds itself in, with how we speak from and how our generation stand in season and how firm we are with where we are at in season, we learn that it's that requirement to not go and find ourselves in another in another discussion or involved in another discussion, but to learn to listen to the completeness of what is made visible to you, the completeness of what is protective in that responsive requirement, that when our leaders affirm themselves to business owners that are your main business owners in international countries, so in your country that are owned by international countries, then we require our international leaders to affirm themselves, to really sit around the table and to really constructively decide on how they're going to overcome that. There is that threat that goes to the one country, and then the threat goes to the next country, and then the threat goes to another country, and then all Rabia says in that time is put your guns away, because the threats are sometimes just a cycle that completes and that sometimes allows itself to happen again. But the requirement for us when that happens is that when the cycle starts again, then we find ourselves not to again in the days after yesterday, but we know that the yesterday's requirement was that I was fine yesterday, that I was there yesterday, that I had no challenges yesterday, so I'm not gonna find myself 10 days or 10 years from yesterday, 10 years away from yesterday, right? So it's that you say you take one step back and you don't allow yourself to go back to arguments and to go back into discussions that is gonna put everyone in danger, because we have learned that everyone is ready to protect themselves and everyone is ready to say, but this is the discussion, my organization is in this country and I need to manage my organization in a way that it is not going to be abusive to me. But then also our leaders in our countries and our parliamentary leaders need to allow themselves to affirm themselves to those business owners and to sit around one table and to discuss that is going to be protective for everyone. It is that you say that everyone in these days has got a weapon in their hands. The weapons are in people's hands that cannot even control them, that is not even registered on systems in season, but it is that decision that certain countries has made, that no communication are going to require them to respond, to react in their countries, but they are going to all have that protective mindset that we're going to allow our leaders the opportunity to deal with the issue at hand, and to not go from one country to target with another COVID season, to not go to another country to start another discussion that is going to be aggressive and abusive to humanity, but to really affirm themselves to that society that is now not only parliamentary leaders, but that oneness that now works in accordance to business owners. We do not care if business owners are corrupt. They do not have to disclose any information, because we have even learned in our season that corruption is even in our parliamentary offices. We have even learned in our season that corruption is not having money in your hand. No, corruption is not even that you were just going there or there, but corruption is that message that you were in the meeting, that you knew this was a corruption and you were in the current meeting. And that is why we say we don't need people to now go and take the issue into a more aggressive way and to now go and more aggress people, but we want our leaders to really listen to that they need to associate with that requirement, that they do not now go and look at these business owners as corrupt, because these business owners even find themselves in parliamentary houses, right? So they can even then react from wherever they are at. But the requirement that we have is that the issue that is currently the challenge of our generation, that our leaders learns to make time to go through the discussions on how we are going to manage that is really required in our season. It is that we have to learn that our parliamentary house really has the different parliamentary leaders, right? Our parliamentary house has the different political parties, and with having the different political parties, our parliamentary house are required to therefore respond to the political parties in the house, right? It is not that the political team that has now been chosen or that has now been elected is now the political team that now only leads concerning every decision. No, it is the political team that allows the whole parliamentary team to really be involved in these discussions that involves parliament, right? It is that you do not keep any secrets from any team members that are in the house, right? It is that all the house members needs to have a listen and a voice in the parliamentary house. When they get a seat in the parliamentary house, then nothing stays a secret, because the moment one parliamentary house leads the house and they are the leading party in the country, that is when corruption starts, and that is when information are being kept from people people, and that is when the world looks the way the world looks today. And therefore, it is going to be for us to decide, are we going to argue about the matter, or are we going to say that if you are parliamentary leader and you point a finger at someone else and you say but someone else has been corrupted in the parliamentary house, and you allow yourself to listen to that requirement to now not point a finger because your involvement in corruption in the parliamentary house then means that you were there, that you have sent a message, that you heard that this was going on in your country, and that you did not react in it. And therefore, our leaders cannot go and point fingers at business owners if it's really issues that are out of control, like kidnapping and abuses and things. And it is an issue that they can deal with in a protective way for everyone. But as far as business owners concerned, their businesses are their businesses. Their kidnappings and corruptions and abuses are something else, right? And that is where we need our parliamentary leaders to affirm themselves to, so that they do not get a generation in such a crisis again. It is that we are not going to say that we are now going to go and argue the case further, because anyone can argue the case anywhere, and everyone had a bomb in front of the countries, or had the army in front of the countries, or whatever the case was, that everyone was ready to fight this, right? It is that we say that it is no use for us to go and argue with people who are really angry because they really have allowed themselves to really own the businesses, right? It is that we say that you cannot now go and deprive the people because they were involved in this or that. There is a different involvement. As far as businesses are concerned, the way that they manage their businesses is they need that is their businesses, and that is their responsibility as owners that no one can deprive them from. It is that you say that there's issues, yes, but those issues are something different. And if you have valid reasons to really limit people with their businesses, then you deal with it in an appropriate way. But you do not shift people into situations that now involves the businesses that they have, and that now also involves the corruption, because the whole world is full of corruption. We have seen enough war already. We have learned of enough abuses already. All the parliamentary leaders were in meetings, and the moment you were in a meeting are the moment that you are involved in a corruption, are the moment that you have had the opportunity to protect your people. And our human right as human beings that we require from our leaders are, if there's any involvement that puts our countries in danger, that they react upon that they do not go days after that to go and say that you were involved in this and that. The moment that the involvement was discussed in your parliamentary meetings, you were made aware that someone was involved, so that our generation does not find itself again in this state that everyone just wants to argue, and no one now wants to listen to no one, and everyone says to everyone, but you have done this and you have done that, and every one of them has done the same. So corruption, one point that our parliamentary leaders has to learn is corruption is completely that is the parliamentary leader's responsibility as a leader, that when there's any discussion that involves their people to be endangered, and they have heard about it and they have not reacted upon it, that is corruption from a parliamentary leader's side. And therefore, we want our parliamentary leaders to decide in this season also to not start arguments, and to not argue with these business owners, and to not get into more aggressive discussions that is going to have our generation again, once again, going through the same arguments that our families and that really countries have had years ago. Yes, there's a lot going on, and when we look around us, there's a lot of talks about the world looking like a European world, and every country now being owned by Europeans. But we have to learn that, we have to listen, and we have to allow ourselves to even discuss those issues, that why is every country looking like this, but to not have it be disruptive when everyone discuss those issues. It is that when we came to the Maori land to me is the Maori land. I do not care who owns the land, I do not care who came here first, but what I have learned is that the whole world know the Maori land as the Maori land, and we do not need anyone to come and disown people up where they are at, right? We need those discussions being dealt with. We're going to really start next month to really affirm ourselves to our everyday people and to what they require. But from where we are at with leading this generation from a parliamentary perspective, it is make time to discuss these discussions. Make time to not argue about it. Make time to not have groups on Instagram that sends constant messages concerning this one's company and this one's business and this billionaire's business, and the parliamentary leaders affirm themselves with the businesses internationally, and they focus on that for our generation during this season. Our opportunities and our choices to accept that that is gonna be protective for everyone during this season. That is it that we wanted to discuss for today. Yes, next month we will share next mandate for people of color leading this generation, and that is where we are at. We are a stunning 2022 years. For 2023, we are required to not be aggressive, to not stir in messages, to not get involved in any arguments. And yes, we have a theme that we say, put your guns aside. And it has really worked very well in New Zealand because there's a lot of Instagram and lots of social media communications. So we require everyone in all the countries to affirm themselves with that, because the argument sometimes is involving so much unnecessary things that we do not require people to respond in their countries by harming themselves, but that we require our leaders to therefore lead with that protective requirement that is right for everyone. Your guns aside, no one has their guns out, no one runs out when people send threat messages, and no one also are gonna get aggressive to the other and gonna get abusive, because that also is guns in our season. And that is what we require of all the countries with leading this generation. Yes, we are all leaders, and we require us to really be in that protective reaction that responds well for everyone. Have a stunning day further.